Hello, thank you for joining us at another episode of Dr. Fireside Chats. My name is Rabi Malik. I'm going to be your host today, and with us we have Abrar from Tazah, co-founder of Tazah. Can you tell us what Tazah does and how you got started, please?
Hey Ravi, thank you for having me. So Tazah is basically a B2B agri marketplace that basically empowers millions of farmers and businesses by providing them access to capital and access to market. Pakistan has an inefficient agri supply chain where there are millions of farmers on one end and millions of businesses on the other end. They have a broken supply chain in the middle, and Tazah is rebuilding that supply chain and empowering these millions of farmers and businesses to provide them more better capital and better access to market. Me and my co-founder started Tazah about 7 or 8 months ago. We started out in August 2021. We've come quite far since then. We started out with just two of us and a couple of other guys sleeping in the mandis, spending a lot of time over there, trying to understand how this market works, trying to figure out a way to serve these customers. And that one thing led to another, and here we are.
That sounds like an incredible story. And it's funny because you said you started 6-7 months ago. I think we probably had our first conversation 6-7 months ago, where you guys had a pitch deck and an idea. And to put it lightly, you guys have come very, very far. I'm excited to see what the future holds, but let's dive a little bit deeper into the journey of Tazah. You mentioned in the early days that you were going as far as like sleeping at the mandi, trying to figure out the problem. Tell me, I assume you've never been a farmer before. How did you find out what the problem that you were solving is and really get the information that you needed to serve the farmers?
So it's mainly started out when we were in Kareem. This is post-COVID period of reflection. A lot of people are thinking, what are they doing with their lives? Whether the world's going to end or not, all that. And we realized that we were sitting on a lot of privilege, which was being in a regional unicorn, having experiences that not a lot of people in this region have. We had 3 or 4 criteria. One was, of course, we want to solve a very large problem, a very impactful problem. The idea was to create the largest impact in Pakistan that has been ever created. 2, solving something which is complex. So there is progressive competitive advantage that you build as the more time you spend in some space, and nobody can come in tomorrow and put in $100 million and try to disrupt us. Try to build something which is sustainable and also has a moat around it. And 3, something which was relevant to us. So once we started looking at multiple spaces, somebody sort of diverted us to agri space. We are from agricultural backgrounds. We'd never done this with our own hands before. So we looked at the space and we couldn't look back, right? So the inefficiencies were enormous. The amount of suffering people had to go through because of these inefficiencies was enormous. The scale, it's by far, agriculture is by far the largest employer in Pakistan. The scale of the impact that could be created was enormous. We knew a thing or two about marketplaces, and a thing or two about these finance and all.
Just a thing or two, yeah?
Thing or two. Now we know 3. So, yeah. So, a lot of things checked out. And once we sort of made up our mind, there was no stopping us. No stopping us in the sense that, we failed so many times. We went to the mandi, we started figuring out, what's happening over there. Every day we failed. When we started out, we went to these customers, we ring-fenced a small part of the market. We said that, hey guys, we want to serve you. They looked at our clothes and they said, you're going to serve us? And initially it started out with them giving us some very difficult challenges or an assignment. You got to get me, a 4 kilo, 10 kilo aam ki peti jo 3 din chali ho, kachi pakki ho, Rahimia Khan ki ho, and chaunsa ho or white chaunsa ho.
Did you know what all of these things were?
Not at all,
So how did you go about even dealing with something like that?
So baptism by fire, right? So we went to the mandi, we tried to find it, we spent hours and hours. Sometimes we couldn't find what they were looking for. Sometimes we were able to find it. Every evening we went to these shopkeepers and they were ready with their bunch of complaints for us, right? They were ready. They're, hey, this is not right. The price is high. The quality is not right. This is wrong. This is wrong. And this kept on happening for like 20, 25 days. And we somehow came across these Ninja Card people. One of those guys sort of was we were very grateful. He was kind enough to get on a Zoom call. And he said that, guys, don't start with fruits. Start with vegetables. Fruits are high friction. Go into something low friction. That's when we went to vegetables. The first day me and Mohsin, we went to a vegetable shop. We asked a shopkeeper, we need an order. He said that, get me potatoes. We said, sure, we know potatoes. We'll get it for you. Next day, early morning, we buy potatoes. We send them over. We get a phone call. These are meethe aloo. And I go, what the hell is meethe aloo? And he said that, alus could, potatoes can be sweet or they can be Pika, right? We learned all these things. We hired people who knew all these things. And again, we every day, even today, we fail multiple times, but we've gotten very comfortable with failing, right? That's probably one of the only things that has gotten to us. And then, of course, the kind of impact we're trying to create. I think if we're able to make even a small percentage of it, I think it's going to change the lives of millions of people, and that's what keeps us going.
Can you tell me, like, do you see many similarities between like your time at Kareem versus your time here at Tazah? Like you said, you knew a thing or two about marketplaces. Maybe between yourself and Mohsin, probably experts in marketplaces. What lessons did you learn at Kareem that you were able to bring to?
So Mohsin is a much bigger expert on marketplaces than I am. He's a much better expert than me in most of the things in life. So, but he was very fortunate to be in Kareem much earlier than I was. Right? He was in 2017 when Kareem was taking off. The competition with Uber was heating up, and he was able to sort of launch some of their most difficult categories. Right? Rickshaw. Nobody could imagine these rickshaw drivers actually using apps to pick up customers. These are the people who made it happen. He launched some of their most difficult cities also, right? So he scaled their business ground up. He had like a front seat. So I joined much later. It was Uber had already acquired Kareem. We were optimizing the business, making it profitable. So I know a thing or two about that part. Mohsin knows about how to build these marketplaces, right? Between the two of us, we do cover some part of what marketplaces, what do we need to build in a marketplace, and that has been invaluable in this 6 or 7 months journey. How do you launch fast and iterate? This was one of the core values of Kareem: launch fast, iterate, launch fast, iterate. How do you be comfortable with failure? How do you hire great people who are 10x better than you, and who raise the bar for the organization? How do you build technology that scales much better than people do? So those sort of realizations in life, all of them were there, and that's been invaluable for us.
Makes sense. Okay. That sounds great. One of the things you mentioned is you're solving a very Pakistan-specific problem. One of the big issues or challenges I think you might face, and you kind of alluded to this already, is that many of the core segment that you're targeting might not be familiar with using smartphones or ordering from a smartphone. Can you talk a little bit about the education element? How do you start to get people to change their behavior, to do something that they've never done before?
There were so many myths, right? These people always buy on credit. If you sell them on cash, they're not going to buy from you. These people don't have phones. These people don't know how to use phones. The RT is so strong that he will not let you in the market. There were so many myths. I think a lot of those myths.
Can I just interrupt very quickly? You mentioned the RTs are very strong. I actually spoke to someone. I'm not going to name who they are. They said that they saw your company. They decided not to invest because they were scared of how strong the RT is.
Yeah, that happened. So I think we've gone to so many doors. 90% of the time, people have told us that this can't be done, right? One of the things that was a common theme was what you said, that these people cannot use these smartphones. These people don't have these smartphones. Part of that was correct, but part of that was also sort of more of a myth and not tested out. So once we tested it out, it started working. But what had to be done in this was us building a product which could speak to them, right? Our app is not in English, right? Our app has these large icons with photos on them, these very large so that people can, even through recognition of colors, do what they want, make the transaction that they want to do. And these are again learnings coming from Mohsin's time at Kareem, when he sort of was building that rickshaw app, and he saw these people in action. How do they interact? So they look at these large green buttons, okay, accept. They looked at the map and they said, okay, this is where I need to go. So all those learnings have come into play when we sort of developed this app. We were speaking to a lot of them while we were developing it, almost on a daily basis. And eventually, what we built was very sort of intuitive for them. And that has eventually led to, a large percentage of them ordering through the app. But of course, there is some education involved. And we have a whole education program around, when these people first place their orders through, for example, an order booker, then we graduate them to a call center. Then we eventually sort of get the app downloaded, and then we...
So you almost have a sales funnel. Once you've even acquired the customer, you still are almost making it easier to scale your interaction with them.
Absolutely.
This is one of those learnings that's very important, especially in emerging markets. Can you talk a little bit about anything else that might have sort of caught you off guard? Anything that you expected to go one way, but might have gone another? Some hypotheses that you might have had which turned out to be completely incorrect?
So actually, a lot of things. For example, credit was one.
Yes.
Everybody told us that these people are hooked on credit.
Yeah.
And you're not going to be able to sell them on cash, right? We made a principle that we will maybe make less money, but we will always sell on cash because we wanted to sort of get our feet on the ground, be sort of a bit grounded before we sort of start being more liberal with our cash and credits, right?
Makes sense.
What we realized very early on was there was friction, there was pushbacks, but we had a clear principle. If the customer places an order, he says that, okay, I don't have cash, can I pay tomorrow? We said no. And once we started doing that, people realized, okay, they're not going to give us credit. And there was more of a
Like a perception change.
perception change, right? So once we programmed them to do that, currently 100% of our orders, other than the small cohort that we're running on a credit or on a lending model, is on cash, and it's working out. These people eventually change their
I
habits.
think we've learned a lot about Tazah so far. I want to switch things over to you. It seems like the hectic journey that you guys are having right now is only going to get more and more busy, right? As you scale up your operations, etc. Can you speak a little bit about how you balance, work with life? How do you make time for yourself and for sort of your personal matters?
So I think what I'm very fortunate about is I have a very supportive family. My parents initially, when they said that, it's very interesting. So initially I was working at ICI. So for them, it's like a very old company, very reputable and all. I moved to L'Oreal and they said, what is this company? And are they into makeup and fashion? And what kind of people work there? And I said, let me do my thing. Then I moved to Kareem and they said, now you're in a taxi company. So you're regressing, right? Then I moved to Swivel and they said, okay, now you're in a bus company now. And now I'm into I've done, my life's come full circle. And now I'm in the aloo pyaz business, right? And they're like, I'm a sabzi wala. So, and they were always like, what the hell are you doing with your life? You're going all the way back. We put you through good education and you were supposed to do something nice with your life, right? But eventually once they started this, started seeing what we were doing and started understanding the scale of what we were doing, they got on board and now they're fully supportive. They're always like, what's happening? How can we help? My wife and my kids, they're also like, my kids, they don't understand, but they're always complaining, Baba, can you tomorrow do the opposite? When we are in the school, you work from the office and then pick us up and then work from home so that we can play. I said, sure, I'll try. But they have suffered, of course. I have not been able to give them the kind of time that they should have got. Same for Mohsin. I think his daughter had her birthday, had a birthday somewhere in June, and he celebrated in December because he couldn't really make the time. He's a workaholic, he's a workhorse, and he couldn't do it. So of course these are the hard parts about entrepreneurship, especially in early stage startups. There's a price, there is a very dear price that we're paying for it, but thankfully we have very good, very supportive families. As we continue building technology, talent, and processes, and systems, and habits, things are going to get better. So we're counting on that.
That sounds great, and I mean, thank you for sharing that. I mean, there's obviously it's not always glamorous, right? And there's always a sacrifice. But obviously, the impact of what you're doing as well is huge as well. You spoke a little bit about the early days at Kareem. Is there anything that you want to tell us about the jobs that you had before Kareem that, how those experiences and those learnings might have impacted your time at Tazah?
Every time I've found a new job, I have had to start over. I started out as a textile plant quality assurance manager.
Yep.
Then I fortunately somehow got into lumps. I don't know how, but I got into lumps, and that changed things for me. I started out as in a government organization writing reports for attracting foreign investments into Pakistan. Then I got into a textile company and I started pitching sort of their business to companies in Western Europe.
Mm-hmm.
Then I got into Nestle and became an area sales manager where I was sort of trying to sell water bottles to shopkeepers.
Yeah.
Then I moved to ICI and then I became a market research guy for their polyester business, which is an industrial commodity. So there's so many things that I've done in life, almost zigzag, no connection to each other.
Yeah.
And I think what that has helped me with, of course, there is no pattern here, but what that has helped me with is reinventing myself in every new role.
Makes sense.
And that has really come in handy in terms of adapting to the challenges of this new life. A lot of things we do today, me, Mohsin, we didn't know about agriculture. We didn't know about actually running an early stage startup. We were doing specific roles in those organizations. But this adaptability has helped. Punching above our weight has also helped, right? We always are like, okay, this is who we are, but we should be there, right? Mm-hmm. How do we get there? You have to be able to learn how to be successful in a different environment. Yeah. And if you're able to do that, things work out.
I think to wrap things up, I have a introspective question for you. If you were speaking to yourself, say, 10 years ago, a younger version of yourself, maybe straight out of university, what's one piece of advice you might give to sort of younger you?
I guess 2 or 3 things, and they all might sound like cliches, like huge cliches.
Yeah.
One, of course, do things that scare you.
Yep.
That's super important. Being out of the comfort zone is super important. To get into start something of your own as early as possible. But before you do that, do work at a startup, a good one. Tazah,
Like Tazah.
Tazah is all right. So you could work here.
Yeah.
So do that. I think being comfortable with failure is also sort of something that people need to be okay with.
Yeah.
And fourth, and I think most importantly, I've been a big believer of something, which is, our time in this world and our existence in this world is pretty limited. We're like a small speck in a very large
Yeah.
canvas, right? And I think it's important for us to make this time count, and going after very hard problems which have a very high impact helps, right? To sort of make your time count here.
Thank you so much for that, Abrar. That was a fireside chat with Abrar from Tazah. For more of our videos, you can follow our social media, and you can subscribe to our YouTube channel where we have other conversations just like this.